Hey, what do you do with that sap on the farm, folks? Sometimes you boil it, but sometimes you don't. That's right. There's different uses for sap, especially maple sap, or what would become maple syrup if you made it into that. My daughter here is taking some sap that she picked up here, a day or so ago. She's running it through the strainer because, every now and then there's a small piece of bark or junk in the bottom of the pail, and she's just cleaning it out a bit. So this is fresh, raw sap off the farm here today. The run has not been very good, so I'm really not ready to boil down a big batch yet. Big batch for us, by the way, is like 100 gallons. So we're not massive on the farm. This is a self-sufficient farm. We're making most of this maple syrup for ourselves. But what you can do with it is go over to the freeze dryer and take this sap. Don't put the syrup in. It's got too high concentrated of a sugar content and it'll explode in the freeze dryer. But you can put the sap in here, and a lot of times I put it in without the silicone tray bottoms, but since I've got the silicone tray bottoms in, I'm just going to use them for right now and not dink with it because I'm just getting home from work. But you can take this sap, put it in the freeze dryer, it'll freeze it up, it'll basically like freeze dry it or dehydrate it down so all the water is out of it, and you'll be left with basically maple sugar bits. Maple sugar bits can be used for a bunch of different things in cooking. They're not quite as sweet as everybody thinks. This isn't like, granulated sugar, but it can replace things in recipes like that, which is fantastic. You can take this freeze-dried product and put it into soap. You can take this freeze-dried product and put it into candles. You can take this freeze-dried product and rehydrate it and put it back into maple syrup, okay, if you cook it back into it, so to speak. And you can take this product and use it for some basic cooking needs where sugar would be what you'd want, but not at that, high sweetness content that a typical granulated sugar would be. All I'm doing here, folks, is eyeballing it. I just want to make sure that I'm getting the trays, fairly level and fairly, I guess you'd say, deep with the sap, because you're just going to get a thin layer off this that you can use. Now, my freeze dryer has 5 trays in it, and if I fill it correctly and the sap has high enough sugar content, I will get a quart out of one freeze dryer worth. Now, again, that's dependent upon the time of the year, the trees that we tapped, and the type of trees that we tapped. Because if you tap, like a box elder maple, you don't get as high sugar content as you do as a sugar maple. If you tap a Norway or red maple, I also don't get as much as sugar maple, so then that makes a difference. In this situation, these are box elder maples in this batch, so I'm not expecting a full quart, but it'll still be pretty close, and it'll still be quite good and quite useful. Now, the freeze dryer settings I'm using, they're just the standard ones. My freeze dryer likes to pre-cool or pre-freeze for like 15 minutes, then it goes into freeze mode, and then once it's got everything frozen up, it'll turn into drying mode. And I think this time it took about maybe 30 some hours to get done. So a little over a full day. Here I'm just kind of wetting my seal. I'm going to shut it up. We're going to get this thing, bucking, and we'll take all this, which is, several gallons, and turn it into maple sugar. So 36 hours later, folks, here it is. It's done. I pull it out of the freeze dryer. It doesn't look like much because it's on the silicone mats. Now, if I didn't have the silicone mats, I'd probably use a spatula to scrape this free. But my wife is going to just quick do it here with a spoon because that's what she's got in the shop. We're in a little bit of a hurry today to get this done, so we're just going to scrape this off and throw the next batch in the freeze dryer, and we'll make several jars of it. But again, it's just a white crystal. And if you want this more fine, grind it up, folks. Just, put it through a little grinder, hit it with a potato masher, whatever you want, and it'll be dust just like regular sugar. But we don't mind these little more bitty pieces of it for how we do it. She's going to vacuum down the lid with a little pump that we have on Amazon. I've put a video out on that before. And then this is what she gets. She got about 3/4 of a jar of maple sugar. It's beautiful, folks. Thanks for watching. If you got a freeze dryer, I hope you try it with maple sap.